Welcome to the Consulting Leaders Podcast, where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Guillaume Jouvencel, ex-PwC and co-founder of GHA Marketing. Join me as I interview the best consultants in their niche. Let's get on with the show.
Welcome to Consulting Leaders Podcast, a place where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your own practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, John Degnan. Join me as we talk with the best consultants in their niche. Jeremy York is one of them. He's the lead consultant and president of InvigorateHR with over 20 years of experience in human resource strategy and operations. He's advised organizations on HR strategy, performance management, talent acquisition, and leadership, helping them improve employee relations and build high-trust cultures. Jeremy, welcome.
Thanks, John. Thank you. Glad to be on here today. Looking forward to a great conversation.
Hailing from Indianapolis, tell us more about yourself.
Yeah, so I am the lead consultant and president of InvigorateHR, located here in the great city of Indianapolis, Indiana. And we've been in business since 2013. And I always say that it's one of those things where I love what I do. So even though I go to work every day, it's really not like going to work. And so I love being able to connect with leaders, connect with organizations, and really help them think a little bit differently about their people. I'm born and bred here in Indiana, and my family's from the South in Tennessee as well. So I'm glad to be here.
You have an expertise in defining and understanding the big picture. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I would say that, the big picture is really seeing what the end result is that we're trying to accomplish and achieve. I've always heard people talk about, human resources and HR like, oh, gosh, the people that can tell you what not to do, or, they're always the police, or they're telling you no. And I never really liked that when people talked about it. And I always say I'm a different type of HR person because I'm the one who's partnering with leaders and leadership and organizations and saying, tell me what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to ultimately gain in the end. And I will help you and try to make sure that we navigate the employment waters through that so we can achieve that successfully. I don't want to be a roadblock. I don't want to stand in the way, but I want to help you be able to get there kind of, if you will, in air quotes, the right way, if you will. And so the big picture is really all about trying to understand where organizations and leaders are trying to go and what they're trying to accomplish, and then aligning our people strategies with that so that we can support that. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, people are the ones doing the work. So we need to make sure that they're on board with what it is we're trying to achieve.
So you're the facilitator.
I would say that in some regard, yeah. Help people really think through things, facilitate their thought processes, their thinking, act as a sounding board, act as someone that they can, just bounce ideas off of and talk about what it is that they're trying to achieve, and maybe get them to think a little bit differently about situations. I think a lot of times, John, we get in these mindsets of everything is black and white, right? There's a right way and a wrong way when, and we say this a lot in the HR arena, where there's really lots of shades of gray overall, where, there's different ways we can get there. We just have to figure out what might be the best way for us, given our, our goals, our trajectory, what we're trying to do, what our industry is, what type of talent we have within our teams. So I like to help people think through some of those things when they might be focused on and understand the minutia of what it is they're trying to get to. I bring back in that big picture of all the things that we have to kind of consider as well.
20 years experience in HR management, but you're also an author, People Not Tasks. Can you tell us about your book?
That's correct. Yeah. So I recently just authored a book called People's Not Tasks, a leader's guide to building solid employee relationships that helps leaders try to think past people as just numbers or tasks, right? I think we are thinking about, work. We're thinking about getting the work done, but we don't think about the people who we need to get the work done, right? So it's almost like at times we put the cart before the horse. We're focused on the task, but not the people that we need to get the task done. So People Not Task really tries to help people shift their thinking, right? It's more of a paradigm shift of thinking about, well, we really should be investing and thinking about what our people need and what type of development they may need, resources, training, what have you, in order to be successful. It's not that they're not just not getting the work done or it's not getting done the way we want it to. It's about, are they trained? Do they have the know-how? Do they have the skill? And do they have the trust in us as leaders? And do they see us as reliable resources for them to, kind of connect with in order to get the work done? So People Not Task really focuses on five pillars of building that relationship, which is trust, transparency, respect, empathy, and kindness, and how all of those things play into our favor as leaders of an organization to connect with people and to build their trust and to help them be at their particular best. So it's a concept that I kind of found it after going through and working with so many different organizations and different industries over the years, seeing that people were just being left behind. They weren't being focused on. They weren't being treated as human beings, but going back to leadership and saying, right, that you can't get this work done without these people, right? So it's like, who's going to do the work if we don't have them there? And so it's kind of bringing us back to the very center of saying, well, we need to focus our efforts here, to ensure that we're being able to perform the work and get the work done we need most effectively.
What got you into consulting, and how did you transition from internal HR roles to advising organizations?
Yeah, so it's like most people, I started out in an internal HR kind of capacity. I had an amazing mentor who helped me really understand the importance of human resources, the role, but really focused around people and leading and guiding and really just kind of providing options, right? Not being the police, if you will, the people police, as some people like to refer to HR. And I spent, over 20 years in leadership roles, realizing that the work that I loved most was being able to help organizations think differently about their people. And not just managing those processes. And so I wanted to do that kind of work at more than one organization, right? I wanted to be able to do it more. And so that's when I started to look at consulting and try to understand, what consulting might mean for me. And so I left my first internal HR role and I started to work at a consulting firm. And then eventually InvigorateHR, my consulting firm now, kind of grew out of that whole desire of wanting to help other people. And, the transition wasn't something that just happened overnight, but it's been very natural because the core of the work is really the same. And it's really just helping leaders see their people as their greatest asset and not just a line item on their budget. We know that, employees and their payroll is usually one of the most high ticket line items that we have. So why aren't we really trying to invest in that and making sure we're getting the most out of it from that standpoint? So that's what really drove me into this idea of consulting and being able to help organizations really focus on the heart of people.
What specific problem are you helping with your clients today?
That's a great question, and it can vary. But I will tell you, John, at the core of it all, I feel like it's helping organizations to stop treating people like numbers, right? As machines or robots or like a commodity. And I think we came out of an age where we've had so many people that were in the workforce, but now we know that that's dwindling and now we don't have enough people in the workforce. So we used to treat people like, hey, if they weren't working out, I can get rid of them and move on to somebody different, right? But now we're finding that we can't really do that because we don't have that supply. And so this has kind of helped people to maybe open their eyes a little bit and see the importance of treating people like human beings. And that's really the philosophy behind everything that we do at InvigorateHR is really being people-centric or people-focused. And so most of the clients that we work with are mission-driven. A lot of them are small and mid-sized organizations. Some are nonprofits, some are municipalities, but they all feel like they're doing meaningful work, but they don't always have the HR infrastructure to really support their people very well. And that creates like this this gap, right? And it costs them a lot of money because they're not being able to focus and do their people well. A lot of times they feel like they're swimming upstream and trying to manage their people operations. And so this gap that exists there costs them a lot of money in forms of turnover, employee culture and low morale, in work capacity, and all of those things. And I think it's always really mattered to me how important, I mean, we all have to work for the most part. We're not all billionaires. And so we have to work, and how important it is for us to go to workplaces that actually appreciate and value us. And so that really matters to me, to work with organizations to help them get on the right side of people, so that they can, really strengthen their business. And then the mission side of thing kind of follows. So I'm a firm believer that if we focus on our people and give them what they need to be successful and develop, believe, and trust in them, the other parts of managing people get a little bit easier, if you will, from that standpoint. So that's where I spend a lot of time with clients and working on them and their people operations, their strategies, and then the processes that kind of help align those things.
How do clients usually find you? What does work best for you to build credibility and attract new business?
I think really referrals are probably one of our strongest channels. When you do good work for organizations, especially organizations that are mission driven, word travels. And so that's been something that's been very, very successful for us, is just having a great referral network based on our work that we've done. Speaking engagements have also been huge for us. And I've spoken at national conferences such as like the Society for Human Resource Management. I've spoken at regional conferences, industry events, and those kinds of things. And that kind of visibility and being present translates directly to, credibility, and also turns into conversations. I feel like if people can kind of make that connection for you, they can see the authenticity that you bring, they can see the transparency and really the passion for the work that you do. I think that really helps, be able to get the word out, and it helps kind of elevate you into that visibility spot. We're also active with things like, on YouTube and webinars and social media. We try to do that. And we've kind of been expanding some of our podcasting as well. So we're trying to use those things, which I think are all great tools. But for us, it's really about how do we build connections, right? And relationships, with that visibility.
You mentioned you're expanding your podcasting. How do you see that working as a tool for you?
I think podcasting is actually probably one of the most underutilized tools for consultants, and maybe even, HR and people consultants in general. I think most people think of it as brand awareness, right, of the podcast and just something, but I have a tendency to see it more as a credibility builder, right? When someone hears you think through a problem, they hear, kind of what you're doing. They understand, like what lens from which you're seeing things, and you're talking, in this podcast for 20, 30 minutes, whatever it is. They get a real sense about you and how you work. And I think what people are really craving today more than anything that brings it all together is authenticity and transparency. And so I think people really get that, through a podcast where you can be, have a much warmer introduction than just a website or a cold call or a LinkedIn post. Yeah, those other things are important. But I think anytime that we can get in front of people and they can get to know us as individuals, I think that helps really elevate that level of visibility as well. So I think podcasting is a great way to kind of really enhance and do that.
When you're dealing with leadership teams and long decision cycles, how do you typically move from the first conversation to a signed engagement?
Yeah, I think, I really try to make the first conversation as we're dealing with potential clients. I look at it as trying to really make it generally useful and not a sales pitch. I'm probably like a lot of people out there that I do not like a sales pitch. I don't like a high pressure sales. I don't like, feeling like, someone is really pushing me or something. I take a more of a relationship-based approach. And that's something that we've done with InvigorateHR and the way that we kind of approach sales. So it's more about making a connection in that initial conversation. And if someone is able to walk away from that conversation with something they can use, then that builds trust between us and them. And from there, I try to be more patient, I think, and more intentional about my interactions with them, right? And so in that first conversation, try to find out what it is that they, what challenges they're facing, how we could possibly help them in being able to do that, what that might look like from our end. And then once that conversation ends, I follow up. I stay visible and I try to understand what's actually going on their end. If they are trying to make a decision, what might be holding up that decision? What's the delay? And a lot of times you'll find out it's budget, it's timing, and sometimes it's internal alignment, right? They're waiting to get all the stars aligned inside their organization to move forward. But the one thing is that being able to know which one of those things might be holding up their decision changes how I respond to them. And I've learned really not to rush in with this, not to put a lot of high pressure on them, but to be visible, to let them know we're interested. And I've also found that the clients who take more time to decide on, if they want to move forward and partnering with us, they usually make the best long-term partners because they're all in, right? And we want them to continue to work with us, and we want them to ensure that they have a great experience in working with us, and it's been a good fit along the way.
You mentioned long-term relationships, retaining clients over time. What are some of your secrets to retaining clients?
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned before, I talked about kind of our social media activities and things like that. So we try to stay visible, right? Even though we may not be engaged in the moment with a client and a project, but we try to, stay connected with social media, with content we put out there. We do quarterly newsletters to kind of, keep in front of the potential clients and clients that we have and connections that we have that are out there. Clients are still being able to hear from us that way, and we're still adding value. And a lot of times the content that we put out there is, developmental, like telling them about things that are happening that's going on, or, being able to tell them about, hey, here's a way that you can develop your employees, or, hey, if you're struggling with burnout, this is something you can do. So we provide value added information from that. We also have our what we call Invigorate U or Invigorate University, which is our on-demand learning platform. And that gives clients kind of a resource that they can lean on when we're in between projects. And honestly, it's something like that where they can go if they need additional training or resources they can connect with from that standpoint, which kind of helps bridge that gap too. And I guess last but not least is the quality of the work that we do with them. That's our biggest retention tool. And when clients really see real results, they continue to come back. And they often refer others, right? And the goal is always to be that long-term partner, not just that project vendor. Even though that does happen where someone comes to us just for one thing, right? But we really want to be able to develop that long-term partnership that we can stay connected with them and be able to help them build their business and build their people strategy.
What's your biggest obstacle as a consultant today?
That's a great question. I think honestly, John, it's probably scaling. The work that we do, as I mentioned before, is really relationship intensive. And we do that by design, right? That's a strength. But it also creates a ceiling, right, on what we can do. And I'm thinking a lot right now about how we can continue to grow the business and continue to meet clients' demands and obligations and extend our reach and impact in a way more than our team can do right now, right? And so how do we continue to be able to make that impact? And so that's something that is really top of mind for me, and also a struggle at the same time of trying to figure out, how can I personally give more? How can other people on my team personally give more to be able to, meet clients' needs and to be able to help organizations, that are trying to solve this people problem that they may have. So that's one part of it. I think the other part has to do with the sales cycle. And because we usually work with mission-driven organizations, they have a tendency to move a little bit more slowly. And they also have a lot of other challenges that might be like budget constraints, or financial kinds of things like that, right? So converting those interests into getting them to sign on the dotted line takes a lot of patience and persistence, but it also takes a lot of relationship building from that. So those are two things I feel like that are more some challenges that are kind of top of mind right now for us as we're trying to look at where we move forward with the business.
Okay. And looking ahead, where do you see the biggest opportunity for people first HR strategy over the next few years?
I would probably have to say that there's probably two areas, I guess, that I would mention. And so first, I'd say it's small and medium-sized organizations. They are chronically underserved on the HR side of things. And really the stakes are high in their business because, they are usually smaller and they're growing. They don't have a great deal of resources. And so when those organizations struggle with people issues, their bottom line feels it, their community feels it, their employees feel it. And so that's an opportunity there into that particular sect of organizations to really help them hone in on some of their people operations. The second one, I would say would be leadership development. And I think there's a growing recognition that technical skills alone can only get you so far, right? And a lot of times technical skills does not also mean good people skills, right? And when we're thinking about this whole idea of people do the work and how important it is that leaders are able to connect with people, encourage people, motivate people, build their trust, transparent with people. The leaders who are going to really thrive are the ones who are the ones that know how to do that know how to build that trust, how they know how to communicate with empathy. And they're the ones that are creating cultures where people actually want to stay because people feel valued, they feel like they can contribute, and they feel seen in the way that they're actually working. And honestly, of those two, the second one is the one I'm most excited about because I think, we spend so much time at work. Having a workplace that positively impacts people and actually adds to their life and not just through a paycheck, but adds to their life instead of takes away from it, I think is like one of the most important things that we can really do as an organization. I mean, let's be real, John. We all have to make money. We all have to work, right? But that doesn't mean that we have to hate every moment about it. That means that if we can find places or create workplaces that bring that kind of joy into people's work and their lives, then we're going above and beyond, valuing them. We're seeing them for the individuals they are.
Jimmy, I don't think you work for a living. You're very passionate about what you do.
Yeah, and that's what I say. Like, I really feel like that I really don't have to work. I mean, it is work, right? But I believe that if you truly enjoy what you do every day and you understand the impact of what you're able to bring into the workplace, I think that's not really work. That's purpose. It's being purpose driven. And when we can do the things we like to do and we feel part of and valued of, I don't really see that as working. And yes, I've been fortunate enough to be able to be in an environment and create environments like that. And that was one reason why I wanted to start my own organization, my own company. And this is something that's part of our core values at Invigorate HR, where we live by those. And we create that kind of culture. And you could ask any of my team, and they're going to tell you that's what it's like to work where we're at. And we believe in that. And we want to bring that to other workplaces.
Well, I love your passion. I feel like I need to sign up Invigorate HR right now.
Absolutely. We're ready. We're ready.
If people want to find out more about you and see what you do, where should they go?
Yeah, they can find us at invigoratehr.com. They can also find me on LinkedIn. My name is Jeremy York. You can feel free to reach out to us through our socials. They're out there. But I'd say the website and LinkedIn is two of the best ways to be able to connect with us.
And we'll put all those links in the description. Thank you so much for coming on Consulting Leaders, Jeremy. We really appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate being a guest. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Leaders Podcast. We hope you learned valuable lessons on how to grow your practice and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.